Hi, today's job on the Triumph Stag is to replace some front suspension bushes. These are the ones on the rear of the drag struts, or radius arms as some people call them. We'll see with the wheel off what we're talking about. So here is the right hand side of the front suspension, and below the McPherson strut shock absorber spring suspension you have effectively a wishbone formed by this radius arm, and this other suspension arm forms a lower wishbone, and the bushes that tend to go are these ones here. I originally had some poly bushes in there, but because of all the problems I guess with potholes on the roads, the poly bush actually started to disintegrate with chunks of it coming off, and so this time I'm going to replace it with normal rubber bushes. So these are the rubber bushes. I'd recommend doing both sides of the car at once. So from the book, this is the arm and the bushes are involved. Here in the workshop manual they call it a radius arm. Interestingly, in the Haynes manual, and this is the arm here, they actually call it a drag strut. So let's get on with it. Also jack up the car, put it on axle stands, like so, under a major part of the bodywork structural element, like so, both sides. To replace the bushes at the rear we need to remove the radius arm or drag strut, so we need to undo and remove the anti-roll bar and the nut and bolt at the end, and then there's a nut inside the radius arm which, if we're lucky, we can see from underneath. So in there is the nut that we need to take off, then that should allow us to remove the whole arm. So I'd recommend removing the anti-roll bar nuts and bushes first. So here's the anti-roll bar lifted off from the anti-roll bar link, and these bushes here come off, and it's a 14mm nut, something like this, easy to remove it. Then you can just push up the anti-roll bar. If you do it evenly both sides, then each side is not under tension from the anti-roll bar, and you can fairly easily lift it off from the drag strut, like so. You can loosen up the bottom nut, or take the nut off the bottom bolt. So down here, I've taken the nut off already, but I should leave the bolt in so that you've got some support for the drag strut while you're undoing the nut at the end of the radius arm. And each side, left and right, is slightly different because you have a different amount of space on the right hand side compared to the left hand side nut. You can see that. Where's it gone? Over there. That's the left hand side nut. Or is it in there? There we go. And to get to the right hand side, the sort of tool you need is obviously a torque wrench with a couple of extension bars, a universal joint on the bar, and a 19mm socket. That then allows you to get hold of the nut with some force. And the other thing you need to do is to jack up the side that you're dealing with, so that raises the drag strut up in the air, makes the connection of the nut go in a bit straighter, so the angle of taking the nut off is a bit better. So then we can get our socket in like so, extension bars out like this, and we just about get enough leverage to undo the nut, like so. And if you've got an air tool such as this, then obviously that makes it easier to remove it quicker. And on the left hand side there's the similar arrangement of socket extension bars, which allows you to remove that one as well. So with the inner nut removed, then we can just pull out the bolt like so, and then we should be able to lever this part of the drag strut away from the rest of the suspension arm with a little bit of force. Needs a little bit of wiggling around, like so, and then you can just pull out these struts like so, and then we just remove and replace these rubbers. So that's the way around the rubber bushes go, with the narrow end facing towards the long end of the strut. This is where the bodywork goes in the middle, so obviously we have to put it on like that into the bodywork, like so, and then we insert the bush and the washer like so, with the drag struts in a nice straight position to make the angle easy to get them on. So with the nut loosely fitted, we can position our arm back into place so the holes line up, and we can refit our bolts. Actually, a little screwdriver is sometimes handy to put in the hole just to centralise it a little bit before getting the bolt to go in. There we go. And then reassembly is a straight reversal of removal. So jack up the hub again and tighten up the nut with a torque wrench to the specified torque of 38 pound-foot, radius day to body. Interesting how they call it radius now rather than drag strut in the Haynes manual. And the other one is the radius stay to suspension arm, which is 65 pound-foot. If you have a bit of difficulty reassembling the anti-roll bar bushes, which can be a little bit tricky, then just temporarily fit a nut on one end with this end drooping down unsupported. Obviously we haven't got all complete bushes in there, so it's just a temporary nut and washer. Then jack up the other wheel, which then means that the anti-roll bar itself is pushing down on the bush underneath it, and it's then a lot easier to fit the top washer and the top bush, in this case a polyurethane one. A little bit difficult to get it over the tube, but a bit of pushing and twisting that should go on. So there we go, and the top nut on, and then we can tighten up. Then what we can do is let this side drop down, jack up the other side, and then again the anti-roll bar itself pushes down on the bush, which helps the fitting. So that's the new rubber bush back in position. Should sit something like that. The next thing you might want to do is check the wheel alignment, and while I've got the wheel off, I'll show you how you adjust that. This is the steering rod from the steering rack connecting to the hub, and it's this lock nut that needs to be undone, and some tools like these are pretty useful. So you can easily clamp onto the nut, hold it one side, and another one holding the end of the tie rod arm like so, and then twist it to, so it should be the other way really, twist it to undo it. You have to take note of the direction that the nut is screwed on. So here you can see that the thread is going in the normal direction, which means it's anti-clockwise to undo this lock nut. Once you've undone the lock nut, you can then get a pair of grippers. So yep, so again, grip onto the rod from the steering rack and either turn in or turn out the rod, depending on whether you want to increase the toe in or toe out. So this rod basically screws into the end of the steering rod arm to adjust your toe in or toe out, or your front suspension. And the way to measure that, you'll have to look on one of my other videos where we do the wheel alignment for the front and for the rear of the Stag. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.